It is freezing out here, but it's one of the best times that I have to work out. All that horrible Thanksgiving food, all that comfort food. So, what's going on, Rhine Labs? You must really be over in Germany at this time of day. The Rhineland, yeah. So it is a freezing day in Summerlin, and I'm going to get into a little bit about some of the origins of tort law and self-help and stuff like that. And you can just barely see the sun coming up. Yeah, good seeing you, dude. Anyways, I'm going to do like a hasty lawyer workout because I just ate way too many carbs, which I shouldn't have done. And this is the price that you pay. You have to, when you work hard, when you play hard, you have to work hard. So work hard, play hard, work hard. That's my philosophy. And as I'm getting older and I have all these injuries from all my days of martial arts and doing stupid stuff, it makes it a lot harder, but I'm doing it. So I'm going to talk a little bit on my way to the park to do a little hasty workout. Hey, what's going on? Let's OTVO, Just Willie. Good seeing you guys. Sweating to the oldies. Oh, God. Well, the oldies to me would be like, punk rock music. So the Misfits or the Dead Kennedys or something like that. But yeah, I got you. You guys are killing me. So here, let's get into a little bit of the history of the tort law system, because that's something that a lot of you guys don't really know about. We've sort of been trained to think that tort law is just a bunch of ambulance chasers, guys chasing around ambulances to try to make money, which, in a way, it's kind of true. That's how they got the name. I got into it for different reasons. They were the only people that would let me clerk for them. And I became a lawyer on the law study program by externing and clerking for lawyers and anybody else who would give me the opportunity to learn law. Never charged for it. And those were the guys that I originally learned under, so that's what I ended up learning, and I got good at it. But basically, tort comes from a Latin word. I believe it means to twist. And again, this is going by memory. I don't have any notes here with me, guys. But yeah, Bo Ghibli, it is freaking cold as can be. And the sun's just starting to come up. But I figure if I do these workouts early enough, I can have conversations with you without having a bunch of people going, what is that dude doing podcasting? Because it's kind of awkward walking down the sidewalk talking to your phone. But basically, the idea behind tort law originally was to avoid self-help under our common law system. And for example, it used to be that the law of retribution would be the order of the day. So if you wronged somebody or stole something from them, then you would have like the Hatfields and McCoys, where your neighbor or somebody could come along and they could get retribution against you. And over time, we ended up with the Hatfields and McCoys, and there was no wrongful death law. So prior to that, prior to the wrongful death statutes, which were enacted by the different states, we had a situation where we would have like the Hatfields and McCoys. And so because the early beginnings of tort law, at least under the American common law system, are from England, our American courts borrowed from those tort statutes to come up with a way to try and pay somebody through the court system for the negligent or intentional killing of someone's loved one. So like a daughter, a brother, a sister, someone with close family ties. Those people would be entitled to seek a remedy in court in the form of monetary damages. And that's where the wrongful death statutes come from. But prior to that, because people were seeking self-help and they had dueling and all these other things going on over in England, the courts started to develop these common law systems that would enable people to seek compensation for money damages for a civil wrong that was done to them. And that's the origins of the American common law torts. Now, it was a little different in the Roman civil law countries, but very similar outcome. It's just that the state would enact statutory schemes, and ultimately, there's a civil redress as opposed to someone just killing each other off. Yeah. Hey, good seeing you guys. All 9 of you. That's freaking hilarious. There's actually a couple of people out here right now, which is crazy. It's freezing out here. Hey, guys. You can see there's a couple people out here. All right, so, hey, what's going on? Nice gas. So you guys must be on the East Coast. As I do these, look, the reason I'm doing this, guys, is it's helping both. I have to work today, so I can't run live tonight. Okay, quick show. Put you guys through a work routine that you can hopefully emulate, especially you folks who have you're super busy with busy families or whatever. Talk about some of the recent news that's come out affecting the First Amendment, a little bit about tort law, and we can do a little workout together. And it enables me to stay motivated to do this workout, because without doing this podcast, there's a high probability I would not have gotten out of bed. Hey, thanks, Just Willie. Got a Lance Corporal 2 months, even though you got a PFC chevron. I'm gonna figure out a way to fix that, where we can change that to PFC. I don't know why it says Lance Corporal on there. Hey. So we got another one. Looks like that was in Melanois. I see that guy out here sometimes training his dog. But you guys see, there are a few people out there who get it. If you want to be a superior man, you have to get up early and take on the day. You have to seize the day. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with me on that. It's very important, especially as men and providers, that we get up and we lead by example. We don't sit around and lay in bed. We set an example, especially if we have sons, so they can understand that we have a very short period of time on this planet and that we have to lead by example. So anyways, before I get to the park here, I wanted to cover a couple other things. So in the recent news, it looks like over 300,000 so-called journalists, which we know are just basically Marxist communists. They call them journalists, but we know it's not what they are, have decided to flee Twitter, or X. And they're going to this new company. It's called Blue Sky, I guess, and it was started by that scumbag who used to run Twitter. I forgot his name, but you guys probably know who he is. But Twitter gained its claim to fame by being a harbinger of the radical left, and it became the gold standard for leftists. Of course, they claimed that it was a fair and balanced place because they were censoring anyone who went against the radical Marxist agenda, or the pedo agenda, which is what I call it. And Yoel Roth was this guy who wrote a dissertation in college about how children, young boys, should have access to gay apps, right? That's what it's always been about with these guys. They always want to be around little kids. And so Yoel Roth was the main man at Twitter, and he was the one in charge of misinformation and disinformation. So guys like me would have their accounts immediately banned if we discussed the Hunter Biden laptop or anything that had to do with Joe Biden and money laundering through these Eastern European countries. And they called that real news, right? Basically just propaganda. And so what Musk did is he basically allowed both sides to start speaking. He allowed both sides. He allowed all the weirdos, the San Francisco freaks like Yoel Roth, to be able to continue. Oh, by the way, anybody who spoke out against Big Pharma was automatically banned. And of course, we know that billions of dollars in ad spend and political campaign funding came from them. We saw them sponsoring the Grammys, right? I mean, can you imagine? Oh boy, petroleum-based medicine just took over, right? So we'll get into that in another episode. Whew. Right, blue sky. So Bo Ghibli knows a little bit about what's going on. And right now I am at Fison Sampson. I am in Summerlin, Nevada. Take a look at that. So looks like the sun's just starting to come up. Beautiful day. Looks like we got a little bit of cloud cover. The other day when I was out walking out here with you guys, it started to hail a little bit, which was pretty wild. But yeah, let's get into the blue sky. So blue sky has now been accused of using a logo that pedophiles use. And of course, right away, Communist News Network, Google, immediately, like all the front page to about page 500. Oh, that's misinformation. That's disinformation. Don't believe any of it. I mean, Google is basically like a mouthpiece of the Democrat Party. If anybody doesn't know that by now, they must be high. We know that it was originally started with help from the CIA. I wouldn't Google it because it's going to be hard for you to find that information. But yeah, that's where, look, it's starting to get light outside. But yeah, that's where a lot of that stuff is coming from. It's just garbage. Don't believe anything that you see, especially from Wikipedia. Might as well call it Marxist-opedia. It's not real. If you want real information, you have to do your own research. And so that's something that X enabled us to start doing. And I'm not saying that X, by any stretch of the word, is much better than any of these other platforms, except that they allow the other side, the other point of view, to be spoken. And that was not available on the original Twitter. You would immediately be shadow banned. If you didn't support the tranny agenda or any of that stuff, you would lose your ability to post on their platform, or you'd be shadow banned and you wouldn't have the ability to post on there or get any kind of traction. And so the left is furious about that, that now that there's another point of view out there. They hate that because they prided themselves in being able to control most of the messaging for the last 60 years or so. And so what Musk did is he enabled people like you and I, who are like natural law people who love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We finally had a place where we could go and gather and speak. And of course, now this dude started Blue Sky, right? So, and you know, Twitter and their San Francisco values, they're the ones who really pushed for the whole tampon machines in the boys' bathroom thing, all the stuff that most Americans are against. But when you're constantly bombarded every day with that's your only choice, and you're told that all the scientists are in agreement because the other ones were censored, you start believing that it's true. And that's the whole idea behind propaganda. So let me, I'm going to go ahead and try to set up my little Hasty stand for you so we can get a little workout in. All right. So just bear with me, guys. So I got this dude coming with his dog right now. Hopefully he won't knock over my camera. I beat him to the spot this morning. So we do our little stretch. Try to get squared away here. By the way, I have a bad knee, so this is really difficult for me. Pain level is about a 13. Oh man, my fingers feel like they're gonna fall off right now. Holy crap, it's cold out here, guys. Do me a favor, somebody Google the temperature out in Summerlin, Nevada. It's cold. Woo-hoo. All right. 38 degrees in Texas, holy crap. That's wild. So we'll do some judo katas really quick. My attempt at doing some basic judo katas. Well, I didn't make it to Gold's Gym today, but at least I got a little bit of a Hasty lawyer workout in. All right. So now the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this two-tier Keir, this Keir Starmer guy over in England. Now this dude is a piece of work. He's another one of these World Economic Forum scumbags who wants to create a one world government where human rights and individual rights are not considered to be valid. It's all about the greater good and what the state says, as opposed to what you want as an individual. So it goes exactly against everything our founding fathers stood for. Whew. Man, that was amazing. By the way, guys, I want to share with you why I think it's so beautiful here. Hopefully you guys can see this. Just give me 1 second. Hopefully you can see the background. I don't know if you can see that back there, but right behind the trees line, that's the Red Rock Mountains. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Whew. It's kind of cool being out here so early before there's that many people. All right, so this Keir Starmer, or they call him two-tier Keir because there's a different law for the jihadis that they've allowed to flood their country. And then if the people who are the natives, the native Britons who complain about it, they go to prison for complaining about these people on the internet. And so there's a system in place in America, primarily with people like Planned Parenthood, which was started in part by a woman who was a Klans member who wanted to reduce or eliminate the black population through abortion. And her name was Margaret Sanger. And she was one of the heroes of, you guessed it, Broom Hillary. And so people like her are part of the worldwide population control euthanasia agenda. And so they use as an excuse flooding their countries with military-age males who hate them from religions like prehistoric caveman religions where they treat women like trash. And then they flood the countries with these people and then pass laws to put people in prison for complaining about it. And Keir was a barrister in England who was responsible in part for pushing for laws and court intervention to make sure that these illegals and military-age males who hate their fellow countrymen could get free housing and free food and free everything with the help of billionaires at the World Economic Forum, with the intention of, well, hey, people aren't reproducing enough. After the last 60 years, they've told women that it's an insult for them to have children and babies, and that they should all get corporate jobs, and that if men don't agree, they're racist, bigots, and homophobes, right? So as a result, populations have radically declined all across Europe and the United States. So what's the solution? Flood their countries with people from countries, many of whom engage in inbreeding, with IQs that are like minus 60, many of them. Easier to control, right? Just give them something for free. And replace the local populations who understand the concept of freedom, individual rights, and liberty with people who don't care about that. People who just want free stuff, mainly. And as a result, that's exactly what's happened. So rather than encouraging the local populace to get married and have babies, they're being taught in the Marxist-run education system that somehow that's an insult to women. And as a result, our populations are declining. So they're flooding their countries with people like sub-Saharan Africans who have like 30 or 40 kids, right? I'm exaggerating, but that's what's happening. What's going on, Dawood? You know what I'm talking about, brother. Hey, right on. Anand, I have a lot of friends from India. And of course, the Indians have had a lot of experiences with the same people that the UK is flooding their country with. So then, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? They plant their flag, they pretend like they're going to support the local government, and then they have a bunch of babies. None of them work, they go on welfare, marry their cousin or their sister's brother or whatever, and all of a sudden, now they don't support the local populace. And they pass laws, like they just passed a blasphemy law, or they're passing one right now in the UK where you can't say anything about these guys that make their women wear hefty bags and treat them like second-class citizens. The local populace is so terrified, especially the women, that they're converting en masse, especially in Spain, because it's either convert or die or be abused, because they know their government won't do anything to protect them. So that segues me into what's going on right now in the UK. So they basically have, like they do in Germany, the crime of insult, where if you say something bad about these foreign invaders that are invading their countries, you can be arrested. And if you're an American and you say something like this over the internet, if you go as a tourist to the UK, you risk arrest as soon as you get off that airplane. Same thing is happening in China. It's been happening in China for years. If I was to go to China, I'd be thrown in a prison instantly because I speak out against the communist Chinese government. I don't like what they've done to the Uyghurs. Although I think that the Uyghur religion lends itself towards the exact same thing that the communist Chinese are doing. That's the problem I have with these guys, is they all pretend like they're victims until they get into power, and they pull the same crap. And that's why America, what made it such an amazing place, is our founders universally detested democracy. Because in a democracy, as Ben Franklin said, 2 wolves and a sheep show up for lunch and decide what's on the menu. In public, 2 wolves shows up to contest the vote. So that's the difference. And just Willie, too late on push-ups there, but hey man, at least I got it in, bro. And I got a little bit of a katagami in, a little bit of judo moves. And that's what it's all about. You know, you just got to get out. You got to make it happen, guys. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to go live tonight because I have a full day ahead of me. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on and what the World Economic Forum has planned for us, which is these 15-minute cities, the abolition of human rights and civil rights and fundamental unalienable rights. That is their goal. And in a democracy, it's much easier to do that because you could simply donate a bunch of money to somebody like a Nancy Pelosi or a Chuck Schumer or a Mitch McConnell, because they're all part of the same two-headed snake. And ultimately, with 51% of the vote, you could take away the rights of the 49. And of course, people on Team MPE are definitely part of that. Probably the 3% of the 49. And the beautiful thing about America was that we had, hopefully will restore the concept of unalienable fundamental rights of the individual. It never had anything to do with a minority. It never had anything to do with a majority. It had to do with individuals. And it came from John Locke and natural law. And that's where our Bill of Rights comes from. And that's why Marxism and what the left is trying to hoist upon our country, they're not compatible. Because in Marxism, there is no such thing as unalienable individual rights. It's whatever the state says is good for you. And who's the state? Well, whoever was smart enough or brash enough to obtain enough power to control the guns. Like Mao Zedong said, all power flows through the barrel of a gun, at least in communism or fascist type countries. And of course, they always like to say, well, Hitler was a capitalist and he was a right wing. No, Hitler was actually a communist. And it was called the National Socialist Party for a reason, guys. And by the way, the roots of fascism are based upon the state controlling the means of production. That's also socialism. They're just different forms of socialism. When 80 to 90% of our university system is controlled by Marxists, and they're the so-called educated ones, and they're the ones who control the media narrative, you've been brainwashed to believe their bullshit that the Nazis weren't socialists. They absolutely were. Unfortunately, Hitler, unfortunately for us, we didn't get to see Hitler enact his full socialism. But remember, in socialism, that's when people run out of money. And when they run out of money, they have to attack other countries. So we never got to see the full-blown socialism. Look at those mountains, guys. That is the Red Rock Mountains, drop dead beautiful. You can barely see them, but they're right back there. Right back there. And they got their name from being red. And they're red because they're primarily composed. And so they rust and they turn red. Pretty cool, right? Now, right on, Just Willie. And that's what I was hoping, man. So Just Willie says he's grabbing his dumbbells right now. And that's what I want to do. Because I know my time's short. I'm older now. And I've made my millions and I've lost my millions. And who knows, maybe I'll get it back again. But what's important is if I can touch and inspire a few people to understand where their rights come from and who their creator is, and why it's important that we don't listen to people like Pelosi and these people that are driven by wealth and power and atheism and the hatred of rights, because rights, human rights, stand in their way of more power, then I think I'll have done my job. So one thing I want to share with you guys is I think it's a huge mistake to send your kids to a Marxist re-education camp. I think that public schools and the university system is totally corrupt to its core. It teaches hatred of America and our founding fathers for a reason, because they're part of this New World Order Luciferian agenda. And it's more and more pronounced every day. Every day we see it more and more. The founders of the World Economic Forum have said that human rights are just a myth, a fantasy. God is just a myth, just a fantasy. Well, look around, guys. Look at all this beauty. Do you guys really think this is just like some big mistake? Like, you don't think that there was some kind of divine force that made it possible for us to have this conversation right now, really? And what's the matter? You says the right and the left is moving towards the same goal. Well, that's probably true, but obviously the progressive left is all in for the one world government. At least the right gives you a mouthpiece that they believe in freedom, AKA they're not trying to take our guns away as fast. And of course, we know that the first step in any totalitarian government is to disarm its citizens. The whole basis of our founding fathers, of our revolution, was that the King of England was trying to seize our powder houses, the settlers in the New World, trying to seize our gunpowder. And that's what really sparked off the revolution. And the reason why the people became independent-minded is because they had no internet, they had no universal web to control them. And so they got to feel what it was like to not be under the jackboot or the yoke of a king. And ultimately, that was the reason why the king failed. Because people were like, why do we need a king? We have all this land. We have the ability to provide for our families. Leave us alone. So how do you control the population? With programming. And programming starts with the public education system. And our public education system in this country, as we know it, was imported here by the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller was famous for saying, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Or words to that effect, him and his ilk. So, as a result, we have this modern day public education system. Where was it from? Well, he imported it from Prussia, because the King of Prussia was defeated soundly, handily by Napoleon. And why? Because the Prussian army retreated. And he said to the social engineers of his day, I want to make sure this never happens again. What do we do? And they said, here's what we'll do. We'll create a Pavlov's dog response with the populace. We'll eliminate classical education, force people to go what amounts to a prison. We have bells, we have whistles, we have classes, basically like a prison. And they created the public education system. And that's what was imported here by the Rockefellers. And ultimately, Jimmy Carter, another leftist progressive, created the Department of Education. I believe we were #1 in the world in education when that was started. And by the time it was over, I think we're at like 129 now in the world. And that's because we eliminated classical education. We don't have cursive writing anymore. Our kids have no idea how to even read our founding documents. When I've tried to hire people who have so-called college degrees, they can't even type, they can't spell, they have to use grammar check, and they have zero ability to think critically. It's like, it's unbelievable, these academics, how they've completely destroyed the minds of our youth. And these are the next generation of judges and politicians. So I recommend, rather than putting your kids through a Marxist indoctrination camp like a college, that you teach them critical skills like plumbing, electrical, things that help them think critically. I'll walk over 10 or 20 college grads to hire an inactive Marine or someone who is honorably discharged from the Corps, especially combat vets, because I know that they can think outside the box. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. You're right, the chosen ones. It is like we're in a simulation or a movie. And I can see what's the matter you's been hard at work dealing with the communists who try to come into my channel and cause disruption. But just so you guys understand, you can see how upset the left is because they had basically a lockdown on all of media with Twitter, basically. And so when X took it over, look what happened. The only states that went for Biden are the ones with no voter ID. Think about that. The only states that went for Democrats were ones with no voter ID. The ones that were flooded with illegal aliens were immediately registered to vote at the DMV. And of course, we know who they vote for, the ones who imported them into our country and gave them free everything. So think about that. I am going to sign off because I have a busy day ahead of me, guys, but hopefully we had some fun today. We learned a little bit about self-help. We learned a little bit about the common law, and we learned a little bit about what's going on right now. 300,000 so-called journalists, I call Marxists, have fled Twitter, and they're going to this new platform by the original Luciferian people who ran Twitter called Blue Sky. And already Blue Sky is being accused of using a pedophilic symbol as their logo. And of course, we know that Twitter originally had Yoel Roth, who supported young boys having access to gay dating apps. And so we kind of know where they're going. The same people who tell little boys that they're girls and little girls that they're boys. Same exact deal. So hopefully you guys will be intelligent enough to get your news and information on your own without resorting to any kind of platform. But at least with Twitter, we know that it won't be filtered, that it won't be altered, and that you won't be banned for actually discussing things that matter to you and your family. So there is a major battle right now over information because the Marxists know that the only way they'll be able to control you is to limit your choices and information to where you believe that there's a consensus. And right now, there's a great revolution at hand fighting against all that. So hopefully I'll see you guys later tonight. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police is going to take down this channel, Semper Fi, do or die, guys. Talk to you soon.